assassinated. I remember my mother was the school librarian, and she came in and told us what had happened and that we might want to turn the TV on. So I remember that and being very shocked by it, and then, of course, watching the rest of the events unfold. I think we were in my grandmother's kitchen on the day that Oswald was assassinated, so I remember a lot about that. A lot of my memories of this period are tied to television, so most of these things we watched on TV. Most of these things on black and white television. We didn't get a color television until about 1966 or something like that.
Everyone in the generation before me can tell you where they were when they heard that Pearl Harbor had been attacked. I guess for my generation, almost everyone can tell you where they were when they found out that President Kennedy had been shot. I was in the 7th grade. I was in Mr. Pitchford's class. I could even take you to the room. And they came down the hall and said that he had been shot. They didn't know at the time that he had died. Later on, they came on that he had died, and it was, a hush that fell into the building. I remember that very well.
The other big thing, I guess, that made me wait more than anything else in the 1960s was the Kennedy assassination. I was a sophomore in high school when he was assassinated, sitting in geometry class. It was I can almost still feel all this time later how not just sad, but how scared I was. Because when you're 16 years old and the President of the United States is dead, and you're not sure who did it or why, and then almost immediately, the man who was apprehended for it was himself killed, and there seemed to be this vast conspiracy to cover it up. And there's all the trouble with the Russians, and you're scared of nuclear war, and you're scared that you'll never be over 16, that someday you're going to look out the window and see a mushroom cloud. We live with that fear. And Kennedy's being shot made us think, this is it. This is the first thing that they're going to do to us to make us so scared and so upset that we won't be expecting the attack from them. So losing Kennedy was like losing a part of yourself. Because it seemed like while he was president, you felt safe.
I remember waking up one morning and hearing on the television about the assassination of Robert Kennedy. I remember where I was when Martin Luther King was assassinated on that April day. We were pulling up to my aunt's house, and I remember hearing about that on the radio. So it was a period, for a little girl, I guess, it was very shocking to see that these people were sort of taken out of the world.
Another one of those flashbulb memories. I know where I was when Bobby was shot. I happened to be on vacation out near the Grand Canyon. I was eating breakfast, and somebody came in and mentioned the fact that Bobby Kennedy was shot and killed. And it was just devastating. You had the specter of Richard Nixon out there on the horizon, and so it was horrific that they had taken, the last best and brightest hope. It really was a hope.
The clothing that I wore during that period was almost all made by either my mother or my grandmother. So my period in the 60s was mostly cute little dresses that I wore to school that had cross-stitching or smocking or embroidery that my mother and my grandmother had done, and wool skirts with hand-knit sweaters that my grandmother had made, things like that. So I really didn't get into the fashion movement, I guess, until after the 60s when I was at the end of high school and into college.
We were wearing miniskirts when we could. You couldn't wear them into the library at Western, nor could you wear pants. And I remember having to go to the library at Western to do some research real quick for something that I needed the next day. And I had on slacks and a sweater. They're not jeans. We didn't wear jeans in the 60s. And I had on a raincoat. Well, actually, it wasn't even raining. I just found a raincoat. And I put it on, and I rolled up my pants up underneath the raincoat so it wouldn't be seen. I made it past the front door, past the revolving doors, started to go into the library, and the librarian caught me. And she says, open your raincoat. And I opened my raincoat, and she saw the pants. She said, you cannot come into this library dressed like that. I mean, these were long slacks, nice dress slacks with a sweater to match, but a dress code. And you were expected to abide by it when you went to class, and expected to abide by it when you were anywhere on campus. I left high school in '64. Elvis was big, so were the Beatles, but I didn't like Elvis. I thought that the Beatles were really neat, but I thought Elvis was kind of like a greaser, country hit type thing. I still love 1960s music. I keep my radio set on that.
Popular music, I guess, became really important in my life during this period. My mother forbade me to listen to a lot of this music up until about the time I was in the 7th grade, when my father, being the the pushover that he usually was, gave me a car radio out of a car that it was in some kind of case. And I would sneak in my room and I think it was at 9 o'clock every night, tune into WLS in Chicago, where I could listen to the top 3 countdown. And I'd have to keep the radio down low so my mother wouldn't know I was listening to the music. But then eventually I saved my money up and began buying record albums. I remember buying my first one at Hancock Furniture Store in Bowling Green. I think it was $3.97. It was an association album that had Never My Love on it. And then I remember buying or getting Simon and Garfunkel albums, James Taylor, listening to those over and over. That was at the end of the 1960s when I was in junior high and high school. I remember a lot about going to the basketball games in the Allen County High Gym. It was really a miserable place when I was a little girl because it was so hot and crowded, and we would usually cry and get taken home when we were real small children. But by the time I was in elementary school and junior high, that was a big part of growing up here.
When I was a small child, elementary school, we're talking 50s, we still had segregation here. You still had, in Franklin, you had Franklin Lincoln High School. In Bowling Green, you had High Street. In Glasgow, you had Ralph Bunch High School. You still had segregated schools. And because of this, I'm still alive. I'm 45, but I remember those things. By the time that I got to high school, this had changed quite a bit. The 60s. When did the 60s end? I've often said the 60s finally ended in Scottsville in about 1975 because of a time lapse, but I don't know if that's really true.